There is a region on the moon where the landscape becomes almost unrecognizable. Astronomers call it the Terminator Line. It's the moving boundary between lunar night and lunar day, the place where sunlight first begins touching the surface or disappears from it completely, and through a telescope. This is where the moon becomes extraordinary. Most people think of the moon as flat, silent, and familiar. But along the Terminator Line, everything changes. Mountains suddenly appear enormous, craters become deep black abysses. Tiny ridges stretch across the surface like massive walls. The low angle of sunlight creates long shadows that exaggerate every detail, and because of that, the moon begins to look less like a distant object in space and more like an unexplored world. This effect is completely real and rooted in science. When sunlight strikes the lunar surface at a shallow angle, even small changes in elevation cast dramatic shadows. Features that are almost invisible during a full moon suddenly become sharp and intense. That's why astronomers love observing the Terminator Line. It reveals texture, depth, contrast, details hidden in plain sight. But something else happens here too. The human imagination wakes up. Because when shadows become extreme, the brain starts searching for patterns. A crater rim may resemble a giant dome. A jagged mountain ridge can begin to look like ruins or towers. Entire sections of terrain can appear strangely artificial. This phenomenon is called pareidolia. It's the psychological tendency for humans to see meaningful shapes in random patterns. We see faces in clouds, animals in rock formations, shapes in darkness. And the moon, especially near the Terminator Line, is one of the greatest creators of these illusions. That's part of what makes lunar observations so fascinating. You're not just looking at the moon. You're watching the interaction between light, shadow, atmosphere, optics, and the human mind itself. And Earth's atmosphere plays a major role in what you're seeing here. Even on clear nights, the atmosphere is constantly moving. Tiny waves of air distort the image slightly frame by frame through high magnification. Those distortions create shimmering effects that make the lunar surface appear to ripple, shift, or even move. In reality, the moon remains still. But the atmosphere between Earth and space creates a kind of visual mirage. It's similar to the way heat waves distort objects on a hot road during summer. Only this time, the distortion is happening across nearly 240,000 miles of space. And sometimes, those distortions create images that feel almost surreal. Bright peaks appear suspended in darkness. Shadowed craters seem impossibly deep. Certain formations begin to glow at their edges while the surrounding terrain disappears into blackness. For a few brief moments, the moon stops looking familiar. And that feeling has inspired people for centuries. Ancient cultures created myths about civilizations living on the moon. Some believed it was a gateway. Others believed it watched over humanity. Even in modern times, people continue to debate strange photographs, unusual shadows, and mysterious formations captured on the lunar surface. Science explains most of these effects through geology, lighting, perspective, and atmospheric conditions. But even with those explanations, the moon still manages to stir curiosity. And perhaps that curiosity is important, because science itself begins with questions. Why does the surface look different at certain angles? Why do shadows distort our perception so dramatically? Why does the human brain search for patterns and randomness? The more we observe, the more we learn not only about the moon, but about ourselves. What you're watching in this footage is a constantly changing interaction between sunlight and terrain. As the Terminator Line slowly moves across the moon, Entirely new landscapes emerge hour by hour. Features hidden in darkness suddenly appear. Others fade away completely. The moon becomes dynamic, alive with changing contrast and shifting light. And maybe that's why people become so captivated by it. Not because it's mysterious in a supernatural sense, but because it reminds us how much wonder still exists in simple observation. A telescope, a quiet night, a moving line of sunlight across an ancient world. And suddenly, the familiar becomes strange again. The moon has always been there above us, but along the Terminator line, it reveals a completely different face. One shaped by light, shadow, perception, and imagination. So the next time you look up at the moon, pay attention to the edge between darkness and light, because that's where the landscape becomes most dramatic. That's where the shadows grow deepest. And that's where the imagination begins to wander.